The story begins in a strange place. A group of people show up without knowing how they got there. The people flash back everything about their lives and indeed realize that they all come from a place called Tanya, but other than that they've no idea where they are or how they got there. One of the people has the idea that if they all keep talking and one of those, if they exchange information, they might be suitable to find out what's going on. But I could use. Youthful Puck Light Girl interrupts them, saying that her master has opened a portal in space time and it's time to get ready to fight. The Puck introduces herself as Giselle, the caretaker of the place, but when one of the people asked her if it was her who brought them to the place, the Puck replies veritably aggressively that this is none of her business. The angry man unsheaths his brand and threatens to attack the cell, but when he launches the attack, he's guillotined on the spot in front of the affrighted substantiations. Giselle rebukes the fallen man, telling him that she advised him and that anyone who dares lay a hand on him will suffer the same fate. The group panics and asks for explanations, asking what she wants, and the Puck replies that all she wants is for everyone to bear to observe the rules, fight well, and win well. Our boys reveals that another group has formed, and Giselle is pleased to realize that her master has initiated whatever is going on. The Puck orders her men to get ready and opens a gate beyond time and space and chooses levies to enter first, hanging them that if they do not, they too will die. One of the men intrudes Giselle, and she recognizes him, as this is supposedly not the first time that they've crossed paths. The youthful man tells the Puck that if she wants to get to the tower, she should at least give him some introductory type of munitions, since they're formerly low-position soldiers and should at least have a chance to defend themselves. One of the women overhears this, and it strikes her that the Puck recognizes him and that the man refers to the palace as if he knows exactly what he is talking about. The Puck analyzes the situation and can help but agree with the boy, so he asks his mysterious master for munitions, who grants his request. The rest of the people asks the boy if he knows what this place is, but he replies that he isn't so sure since it has been a long time since the last time he was there, which again activates a curiosity of the woman who accompanies them. The only information that the man gives him with certainty, as if he has no mistrustfulness about it, that if they do not snare their munitions, they will each be lost, as the battle will soon begin. The group goes inside an armory and chooses their munitions, but they're surprised to come out of the place and to see that the swordsman cadaver has faded. The Puck orders them to stop stalling and orders the first batch of soldiers to go through the portal. The red-haired woman notices that the mysterious youthful man has chosen to shield as his armament and prodigies if she should take it off, since she knows commodity, and if he chose his guard for a reason. The woman asks the youthful man for information, and he replies that she should just kill all his adversaries once he crosses the gate. At the same time, the mysterious voice announces that the first surge of soldiers has fallen in front of their adversaries, each and every one of them dying. Giselle becomes furious and sends out the alternate surge, and the people crossing the portal find themselves in another world with an army of spoons heading towards them. Most of the group retreats only to find an unnoticeable guard interposing the passage, and they've no choice but to fight. The youthful man fights bravely, declaring his name to be Islat Han, but his former name is Hansio Jin, and he realizes he has entered a game where everything is a matter of luck. It is revealed that our idol Han is actually a stoner of a mobile game called Pick Me Up, created by Mobius. The ideal of the game is to reach the bottom of a tower, creating accoutrements to fortify and support your idol. To win, you also need to use strategy and tactics to clear the palace. Visage was living a normal life until the game invited him to a unique event known as a transcendental advent. Our idol is frustrated because despite of having devoted times of his life playing Pick Me Up, he has no way attained a star idol when others have. This convinces him to share. As we continue to review the rules, which state that unlike other games, once your idol dies, there's no way to bring him back to life. Hen continues to play and sends her reckoned platoon to the advent dungeon that has just opened. Still snappily, his party members fear, and one of them, Dora, decides to retreat still beforehand can make any move. A position bug such like figure snappily finishes off his character. Seeing this, Hank can only believe that this is a system error. Also, while trying to figure out what's going on, the bug looks at the screen crying, "I set up you formerly," which scares our idol incontinently. Latterly, everything goes black, and out of nowhere an account and a stoner start to produce themselves, acting on their own and creating themselves without hand entering a single character. Therefore, his stoner anything is aid into the world of Pick Me Up. Without understanding what's going on, Hannah appears inside the game. There he appears in City, the land of where humans live alongside other species, and his first charge, the tutorial, consists of defeating the leprechauns that foray the city. Seeing all these, Han thinks it's too realistic. Still, he snappily accepts the reality and begins to fight, namely defeating the leprechauns. At the end of the tutorial, the idol has leveled up and entered the corresponding prices. While walking through the megacity without completely understanding if he's in the game, he manages to fade a familiar geography and realizes that he is indeed inside the Pick Me Up. Still, he is intruded because in front of him appears a girl named She, who seems to having summoned by himself, although he doesn't understand how that makes him suppose that he was also summoned by another player. They both introduce themselves, and it's revealed to us that Shay is a knight class position 1 ultimately by opinions the game keeps making on its own hand and slice form a platoon when they start fighting. She fluently defeats all the leprechauns by swinging his brands adroitly and complaining about Han's uselessness. With the success of this battle, the final stages of the tutorial arrives as tutor Man says he feels unrehearsed to face the end of the tutorial. Giselle appears to force him to follow his master's orders. Upon seeing her, Han asks if she's Giselle, which surprises the fairy, because she should not know her name. Han also explains that he knows that information because he has formerly played pick-me-up. On reviewing the history, Giselle manages to realize that Han's name and appearance differs greatly from what they should be. There, Giselle also realizes that this new character is from Earth, which starts to drive her crazy because it does not make sense what's passing. Still, without another alternate study, she pushes Han into the synthetizer at the end of the tutorial. In the conflation process, the idol is upgraded by combining the two inside the machine. Still, his way of upgrading him is to use another bone as immolation. Upon learning this, Han expects his immolation as his mate is a 4-star, while he only has 1 still to his duplication. She is immolation, and the idol's upgrades are added to Han's body. This only makes her idol suppose that the master is either confused or useless in the game, as a decision he just made by immolating Shay makes no sense whatsoever. In another moment, Han along with his platoon are fighting the leprechauns for survival while calling one of his teammates to keep moving forward. Our idol promoter is attacked by one of the leprechauns, but he manages to turn around snappily and defeated before the crack gets worse. While fighting, Han continues to suppose about the bug that looked him in the eye after barring him, as he believes that's the reason he is now inside the game. Eventually, Han and his companion end up defeating the leprechauns, but our idol has been seriously wounded in the arm. Despite this, wrathfulness eats down at him, and he thinks only of the bone who watches the game as a god, swearing to him that he'll survive and hoping that the master will see him survive. Gina and his companion, and the only one who has survived with him. Situation's over. After barring the leprechauns and gets her well-justified price, Han decides to stop crying and accept his new reality. He's now outside to pick me up and must fight to survive. A character can only be excluded in 2 ways: by dying in battle or by being perished, as is the case with Shane. Flashing back this and being completely apprehensive that a star 1 character like him is useless, and decides to come strong and survive, but also to take advantage on the bone who put him in that place and to return to his normal life. Still, he mustn't only ameliorate his physical strength but also his internal strength, because with an unstable intelligence it's insolvable possible to survive there. Thus he begins to exercise every day. At the same time, he convinces himself that in real life he did well growing up without parents and no bone to cover him, so to progress in this world he needs the pressure of that moment. While our idol is training, Jenna approaches him to see how to stay in the race, as they both realize that they won't be suitable to get out of there. They try to suppose of new results. Jenna also reveals that in her old life her father was a huntsman, so archery was always her hobby, and she's veritably professed at it. Watching her, Hen realizes that indeed, though the girl is a star 1 like him, she does have her special chops. Therefore, despite being a first-time fighter, she managed to show great courage and chops. When she managed to take out a troll, as far as her character is concerned, she seems to recover snappily from other people's eliminations and is clear about what their thing is, so Han thinks it'll be good to have her by his side, as she has a lot of implicit when the two decide to work as a platoon and shake hands. And closeness perk is created which gives star lagniaps to both boys. Seeing this announcement, Hen can only suppose that they're veritably annoying. He also decides to call Giselle, whom he asks if it's normal for them to see these announcements. The Puck surprise affirms that it's veritably strange since she should not see them, and surely if that happened is because commodity got mixed up. This makes Hen realize that he's the only bone who can see the game dispatches and the fake dispatches from the schoolteacher, as well as the statistics of the other characters, while allowing to himself, and continues to ask Diesel questions. Still, when he asked what would be if the master decides to quit, he only receives an fugitive answer from Giselle, who states that it would be his death. He also discovers that the time in that world and the time on Earth are different. GCL is completely enraged that Han has managed to take that information from her. Still, a Puck like her can only intrude in cases of tone defense and when the master's orders have been defied, so our idol is not hysterical to keep bothering her to get information out of her. Jenna, who doesn't understand her mate's motherings, ask him what is going on. Also, Han explained to her that they must complete the searches that the master will give them. Until they reach the 100th stage they will still be fighting monsters, so they both must come strong, but other guys can be summoned so that they will not be inescapably alone all the time. After completing a day of training, Head discovers an intriguing rule of that world, and that's the diurnal musts and food are replenished the coming day, so there's no need to go out and get them. At the same time, if they want to have commodity they only have to imagine it and it'll appear in a hole or cupboard. Likewise, he learns that there are times when 2 icons have different combat powers despite having the same rank. With this information in mind, and after a full day of being in that place, Han understands that the master will soon begin to Classify the icons into 3 types. The first will be by intelligence, that is strong inclined and not prone to fear. The second would be viability. Still, the bents of low-ranked icons are hidden, so the masters should laboriously search for them eventually. The third would be by physical capability, seeing that he is not veritably strong in the other 2 areas and decides to concentrate on that one, so he trains day by day to ameliorate his physical capability. After 3 days of training and with 2 new chops, and notices that the master eventually connects. The master also process 3 new icons, Aaron, Toby, and Elson, who arrive on the scene just as bewildered as Han was at first with the new characters in the game. This hill opens a new gate out of space and time for stage number 2. Still, the 3 beginners don't understand anything and fear with Jen and Han try to tell them to get ready to fight. The alternate stage consists of barring all adversaries and is a charge of conquest. Formerly on the battleground, the platoon must face not only leprechauns but also wolves. Seeing that their new teammates are useless in the fight, Jenna and Han agreed to take on the leprechauns and wolves independently. One Han begins to charge to the walls. He realizes that despite his blows, the damage is veritably low because he has a weak armament. Despite the weakness of his armament, Han's shield helps him enough in the battle to crop victorious against the wolves, but he does not master them fluently, but only succeeds after a long time of applying the brand when he finishes with his own and wonders what has happened to the leprechauns. But when he turns around, he can see how they're all on the ground after being oppressively attacked by rubric arrows. In this way, both boys manage to master the adversaries and overcome the stage. Still, they're slightly returning to their lair when they're notified that they will incontinently move on to the 3rd stage without giving them the alternate rest. While Han begins to suppose of strategies of how to overcome this 3rd stage, the master disconnects, relieving all the players, as it means that they won't fight until the master appears again. Connecting the blotches, our idol realizes that they will have to fight 1 bottom per day in real-world time. Still, since in that place time flows 3 times faster, that will mean that the coming battle would be days from now, and the games after the battle Han's stats have changed, which means that his physical position is adding as he heads towards the lobby and notices how 3 beginners are draining Jenna with questions, trying to find a result, though she only explains to them that they will have to start fighting. Seeing them scarifying, our idol comes to the conclusion that the advanced the rank, the more likely are to be called, but the difference lies in the fact that those of star rank fear fluently when they find themselves in that situation, while those of high species start fighting incontinently when one of the beginners tries to mutiny and starts hanging Han with a punch. Our idol gives him a punch that knocks him to the ground, forcing him not to ask any further questions. The coming day, Han and Jenna begin their training. On the one hand, they do physical exercise, on the other munitions training, which is nothing further than applying a rustic or using a bow and arrow, as these are the austere possibilities. They have the 3 new bones don't appear in training because they plan to look for the exit and escape without any success. 3 days laterally, the master appears again. Jenna seems agitated to face a new stage because she's wearied of just training. Diesel has to beat the 3 beginners to get them to return to the positions and stop wasting time looking for a way out. Eventually, the 3rd bottom arrives. The charge order is subjection, and the ideal is formally again to annihilate all the adversaries snappily and concisively with the new and advanced chops. Our icons master the monsters of the 3rd stage without a scrape. Jenna comes out as the stylish player. So far, Han seems frustrated that his teammates have again not tried to join the battle. Also, a tip from the master appears on the screen: have the beginners run in circles to increase their exertion. Still incontinently after that advice, they are presented with occasion to retry bottom. Following the dynamics of the game, Han can decide what to do, and the master states that he wants to retry bottom, so the platoon members appeared. There they snappily master the adversaries on the 1st position, but the master makes them try again on that position both times. Jen appears as the stylish player. He also has them renewal position again, and indeed, though they master their opponents and Han comes out as a better player, our icons are formally starting to get exhausted from the endless reiteration of battles. When they eventually return to the lobby hoping to rest, they find that the master has other plans. The conflation of the icons begins. Han feels confident about the conflation as he knows that the master observes everything and can understand who's really fighting on the frontal lines and who's spending their time trying to escape at that moment. Giselle appears and sends Elson and Jenna to the conflation center. Upon hearing their names, Jenna begins to get nervous, but Hen reassures her. Formerly inside the conflation, Elson starts remonstrating to be taken out of there, but the job is done. The man is offered to enhance Jana's capacities, whose situation's up and earnings. Eagle Eye has a new capability. Formerly, Jaina comes out of the machine bettered, and without knowing well what has happened, Han explained to her that in that world the useless bones are offered incontinently. Laterally trade sends Han and Toby to the conflation. When both players find themselves in the machine, Bobby tries to move himself that he'll ultimately be returned to his old life, but ends up turning into light and fading. Han absorbs his former mate's powers and situations up, gaining the compost continuity. Seriously, Han congratulates the only remaining companion as he seems to have been lucky this time that it's the first time Jen jests this situation, so she is kindly alarmed and prodigies if it will always be like this. If only she is no longer useful, she'll be excluded by the master also, and assures her that as the advancing position the monsters will come stronger, and so will be the sum, and humans therefore shall moreover be excluded at the hands of the adversaries, or she'll end up the immolation. Hail, this only makes Jenna's hair stand on the end, but Han urges her to continue strengthening herself as to not to fall into either of those fates. The coming day, Jenna continues to worry about being excluded and tries to prove to him that she'll do whatever it takes to stay in the game. At that moment, Eren appears to apologize for how he has acted so far, leaving the fight solely to our icon. Still, he has learned his assignment and now wants to change his ways and start training with them to become a member of the platoon. After scrupling for a moment, Han asks him he has fought monsters before, to which the boy replies in the negative. Han tries to assure him that when he went by there he had not. Moreover, still he managed to visibly ameliorate, since he is determined to fight and survive. He also provides heroin with a shaft, a armament that's of medium range and is one of the easiest to use. Therefore, if Eren learns how to use that armament, the platoon's chances of survival will be lesser. This is because they will have all three types of range in battle, simply with the brand medium range with shaft and long range with the arc, without giving his mate a single tutoring head begins to attack him. For if he learned on his own, Iron can too. Still, the training is too hard and he seems to have pained up wrathfulness. After a many attacks, he begins to mark Eren's miscalculations in his offense and ends up beating him until he manages to break him down. Han is unintentional to carry any burden, but is willing to exclude anyone who gets in his way and contributes nothing in his attempt to survive. With Eren's seal on the ground, Han begins to provoke him until he generates a kind of abomination and apply to surviving. His companion, looking into Eren's enraged eyes, are idle, rejoices as he notices that his strategy is working. Latterly, the master decides to make a blacksmith shop, and upon seeing this, Han calls Giselle to start with his questions. In this way, he finds out that the advice comes from the strategy forum, a forum in which Loki uploads these strategies to continue advancing in the game. Giselle is surprised that Han knows Lucky. Still, she teases him. Although he formerly was a big manly player, he is now just a low position idol in the lower stages, while Loki is and always will be the master of masters. Noticing that the Puck is easily in love with Loki and asks why she likes him so important, and she replies that he's someone who makes the insolvable possible, and adds up mockingly that he should know that if he brags so important about being a pick-me-up player. As Giselle is leaving, she turns around to hear a tale from Han, who ends up confessing to her with his mischievous grin that he's Loki himself.